Scott, we are live. Good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Pete. I'm very good, thank you. Thank you so
Scott
much for having me.
Edwards Jimenez. No,
Jimena,
Jimena.
you got it
Yeah.
right.
Well, listen, it's lovely to actually meet you. This is the first actual proper conversation that we've had. How did we meet?
Well, I found you through Hannah's story,
Yeah.
and I watched the YouTube when you went to the US, and since then it's just been inspirational from her side because I've got a glioblastoma grade 4, was diagnosed 15 months ago and was rejected operation 2 times, and they gave me 4 months to live with palliative care. So the truth is, the first 6 days in hospital, my two sisters and my wife Rachel, I asked them to make noises that I was not accepting. I was, really wanting to live, very proactive. So the head of surgery the head of surgeons of hospital came and see me and said, "Okay, I see you've been making a few noises in hospital. You're not in agreement with my colleagues." And I said, "Well, not really. It shouldn't have been my decision." And no one's explaining why they're not going. They're just saying it's very dangerous to operate because it's touching the tumor. So he explained from the worst to the best miracle and anything in between. I asked a lot of questions. I always want to know everything because I need to prepare my soul, my body, and everything. So after 20 minutes conversation, he said, "I will operate you,
Yeah.
but you more likely could be in a wheelchair." And I just looked at my wife and I looked at her and said, "Would you continue? Would you love me if I wheelchair, or would you forgive me if I decide to go on operations with this many risks that the surgeon is saying?" And we were both in tears. And she said, "Yeah." And in that moment, I said to Dr. Arraiz, which he's been operating for 39 years, he's actually worldwide known, and he took my case. And since then, everything has been a transformation. Is been accepting the diagnosis and not accepting the prognosis. But So yeah, that's how I found you through Hannah's story because I am wearing the shoes she's been wearing for many years, and I've not come across hardly with one handful, very few that've made it over 10 years, Pete. They call it that 1% club and everything else, and there's a lot of coincidence between me and you. You met in 2010, you and Hannah. I met Rachel in 2010 as well. Okay, I was diagnosed just last year, but there's a lot of coincidence, and it's for me. I've been speaking to a lot of people like myself. They're wearing the shoes of the cancer, but I've very rare spoken much with the person that is wearing the shoes of my wife, Rachel. She's English, by the way. She's from Wakefield, Osset. She's a northerner.
She's an order. Well, I mean,
She's
there's so much in what you said. I think what intrigued me is the fact that you wanted to speak to me. What intrigues me is the fact of your disposition, your attitude. I've looked into some of the stuff that you do and you've posted, and I mean, there's so much. And the fact that you said you've never been interviewed before, that this is a privilege for me to be able to speak to you about who you are, where you are right now, what's going on. But I just want to take you back. You said that did you follow Hannah's story, and were you aware of it like that in like 2011?
no,
No. So you only
no.
became aware of our story recently, right?
Yeah, because what happened was when I was diagnosed, I said to my wife, I need to protect myself. So I went off social media, I went off internet, I went off TV, and I started the first 3 or 4 months of diagnosed operation, living 2 months in hospital. Everything I did was painting and reading books. That's all I did, nothing else. So Rachel, she's got the credit of researching all the supplementations. We rejected the food in hospital, and she brought a bullet. I don't know what you call it in English, a bullet thing
Yeah,
that
yeah, a NutriBullet.
that's it.
Yeah,
That I
yeah.
make my smoothies. That's the kind of diet. Because we're in a public hospital, sharing a bed with another patient, and we had no space. So I protected myself, and she was constantly saying, "Oh, there's this family's here, there's this family's here, there's this people you can inspire." And I was like, I don't need a life coach. I need to figure out, who I am, and stop asking the wrong question. Why me? Why me? And it was only a few months later when I started asking the right questions. So when I found you guys, and I've been catching up with everything that you talk about, Hannah, but as well about yourself, about yourself. I've been a lot of intrigued because the dynamic, and you will understand this. Like me, I'm completely honest. I'm going to open everything. Me, my wife, Rachel, and my therapist, Martha, which she helped me through my childhood trauma. She's also helping us as a couples therapy. We love each other. The dynamic is great. But when you become diagnosed with the terminal cancer and you've been given 4 months to live and you've got 4 centimeters of a tumor in your brain, everything shifted. The relation shifts. Rach becomes a nurse. I become a patient. And for the last years, become patient nurse, patient nurse, patient nurse, and you slowly forget the relationship. We've been together since 2010, so we have a beautiful connection. We've always had a lot of respect, and luckily for us, we've got two beautiful children, young children that we both agree in the education we want to give them. But the most important is that we recognize they've been slowly drifting away of what is the true love of a relationship. And that is what we're working on. So, I'm a very receptive, and I can recognize objectively what is wrong and then work on it rather than being ashamed. I'm not a person that looking for, sorry, just my first language, by the way, is Spanish. Okay. I've only been in England. I've only been in England 3 years.
Well, you wouldn't know. I tell you, you wouldn't know. You're obviously married to an English person, but
Yeah,
your
that's where I've
English
learned
is
it.
your English is amazing, but I do appreciate you probably have to think that little bit more sometimes with words. So just take your time because it doesn't. This is just a conversation between two people. So
Yeah,
we're not.
so
Yeah.
that's where we are now. So we're just understanding that me and Rachel are working on our relationship, because the last 2 months, 2 or 3 months, there's been a big shift in my outlook in life, and I've taken it all by myself. And because we were traveling in Asia and I came here on my own, they carried on in Asia. And this is literally just only 2 months, 3 months ago. So there's a lot of things happened. So that's what we're working on at the moment.
Well, there's. Thank you for your openness. There's so many roads that we could go down in terms of the different the paths that you've chosen from a dietary point of view, from meditation, all these different things that you've been doing. But I think where I'd really like to start, because the thing that intrigued me the most, Scott, is when you were saying, and I could feel it in what you were saying when you messaged me on Instagram, which is around the person that you have discovered, who you are, that this massive stop moment in your life has just made you really go to a place maybe you would have gone, but you decided to go. And that was very much the same as Hannah. Hannah, the story, we met in 2010, and a year later she had this seizure. She wasn't given very long to live. We went to America. She made this miraculous recovery. She started sewing. Sewing then became, I think I'd like to quilt. So she bought this quilting machine. She learned how to quilt, and she started creating things. And that's who she was. That was one big part of who she was. She was a creator, someone who lost herself in the making of things. Like this cushion was made from my dad's shirt. This was a shirt of my dad's. And Hannah, when my father passed away in 2018, this was one of the things that Hannah did. She got to know who she was. And when you said
Very
that,
similar style. I'm very jazzy. I don't know if you can see my trousers.
yeah,
I'm very
nice. Yeah, yeah.
jazzy.
Yes. Well, I think most people will probably listen to this, but they'll be able to watch it as well when we put this out into the world. But I'd love to know, what is it that you've discovered about yourself that you want to share with the world? That's why I got a profound sense that you want to share. You've got things you want to say and you want to share with the world, that things that you've discovered. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So please, wherever you want to start with that. Um,
I think we should go back to uh, this is the first time I'm sharing this, okay? Only my family and the closest people, but I truly believe that the cancer came for me for a reason. And it was only after having the operation on the 20th of June. I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes of a brief.
take your time. Just take your time.
So in June the 20th, the surgeons operated me with very little expectations. I don't want to talk about percentage. I don't believe on that, on numbers. I'm here to break that or just in my own belief. But it was a true miracle. He did a great job. And I walked out of hospital with my own legs in 10 days when he thought I was going to be in hospital for at least 2 months. I made a painting so I said to you that whilst I was in hospital, to keep my mind occupied, I discovered, and I say discovered, I've always been very creative in my brain, but I never put it into fingers. So a friend of mine brought me some paintings and colors, and I started painting, and I did a beautiful paint. Well, I think it's beautiful, very artistic. And I said to myself, I'm going to make this painting and finish it the day before my operation. I'm going to show the photo to my surgeon, and I'm going to say to him, one day I'm going to walk to your private clinic on the second floor, no lift. I'm going to take this art. And about 7 weeks later, I did that. And he's put it in his lounge. Where I'm coming to, after that, I had to recover from the operation for the chemo and radiotherapy, which I had it for 7 weeks. I challenged myself then because when you are someone that has always been an entrepreneur and done a lot of business, and all of a sudden you get diagnosed with cancer, you lose control of everything. And I struggle with that. I have a lot of OCD, ADHD. I don't like to tag it, but I struggle. So I needed to do something that I can control. And I kept a promise to myself, and I didn't even tell my wife. So the day before I started the chemo for 7 weeks and the radiotherapy in the part of the brain, I said I'm going to prove to myself, to the doctors, to the oncologists, that I can physically be in better shape, and my blood results is going to get better every week. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I just did it. And every week on a Tuesday, they always had to take bloods to make sure that every time I went to chemo and radio, your blood cells, the white cells, and everything else, it's okay. And towards the end, it was getting better. And the last one, I took a photo the day of that and I showed it to my family and friends. And I proved to myself that everything is possible, even during chemotherapy. So after that, I asked my wife, I need to discover my soul and my heart, who I really am. Would you be okay if I just go to the north of Bali, in the forest, in the jungle, and lock myself in a wood cabin for 2 weeks? And obviously, she was concerned because she's like, you've only just recovered. What happened if you have a seizure? What happened? Because I'm epileptic as well since I was age 7. And I said, just trust, I can't live in fear. So she just trusted the universe, she trusted me. And I went 2 weeks to Bali. I can't
Sorry, what made you go there? What
to
made
Bali.
you? Yeah, what did you just wake up in the morning and go, I got to go to
No, no,
Bali?
no, no, no. I'm a very spiritual person. I have my own intuition and not in God. I'm Christian. My parents baptized me and everything else, but I don't go to church. I don't go, I'm not Catholic in that aspect, but I have my own beliefs and I trust the messages that the universe
So
sends
you
me.
got a message saying what? You need to go to Bali for 2 weeks and
Not
go.
to Bali. I need to log myself and figure out who is my soul. I've been completely lost for 3 decades, and I'm coming to this because I'm gonna confess to the world, which has been the darkest, deepest um, secret I've had up till the beginning of this year, even to my wife and my parents, and no one's knew. And I'm going to share this today. And I wanted to share this because I think, unfortunately, this is happening more than we think. So when I went to Bali in November, I went there for 2 weeks. I returned back such in a really good place. I realized what kind of person I can become. So I started researching, and I've always had a massive appreciation about Buddhism and Hinduism and Shiva, and I've always had that. So I started reading books, Jay Shetty, the Zen monk from Vietnam, and so on and so on. And one day, and this is the fact, this is where everything shifted. One day I went to a healing sound ceremony of Tibetan bowls, which I love going to it. And there was a woman that just arrived to my village. My village is only 2,500 people. Okay, not many people move here. And this woman is called Martha, and she was the one that's conducting this healing sound ceremony. I was the first time I ever met her in a group with other women, including my wife. I left, and she said, I need to meet your husband because he's holding something really, really bad. That night, I reached home, and my wife says, this woman, I've only just arrived from Bali 4 days ago. I was like ecstatic. I was like in a mood. I
Mm.
was like in a cloud. And I say, who is that woman? How dare she come and invade my... So to cut a long story short, she gave me 2 hours for free, said, just let me talk to you. I'm not going to charge you, and you tell me if you've got something or not, or if I'm wrong. After 2 hours in that same week, I crumbled. I cried like I've never done. And my confession to her, which was that just in between Christmas and Three Kings in Spain, we have Three Kings in Spain is Christmas is the 6th of January in Spain. So in between those dates, I had my first paid session with her, and I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And it was that moment when everything started to shift. So the beginning of January, I confessed to Martha that at age 12, 13, I was sexually abused myself.
Yeah.
So I used to go to extra classes Tuesdays and Thursday, and it was a man called Don Ferran in his early 30s, and he abused me for nearly a year. And sorry,
It's okay. Just take a moment or 2 moments.
yeah, that was the moment that I needed to to let go. For 33 years, I didn't tell my parents, my sisters, my friends, and that man took my dignity, my childhood, it took everything from me. And it was only through 12 intensive weeks, 3, 4 hours a week with Martha, that she happens to be, apart from amazing sound healing and a yoga teacher, 21 years of expertise of childhood trauma. She had only just arrived a month before she gave that sound healing sound. So she's come into my life for a reason. That's the universe saying, look, you got cancer, you're not gonna fight cancer unless you get that thing out of it. And it took 3 months of me doing all the hard, oh my God, I tell you what, you get glioblastoma and all that, but this 12 weeks of that was hard work to liberate.
What did you do? What was hard about it?
Well, the hard about it was first was talking to her.
Yeah.
Then later there was a stage of 4 stages that she never told me from the beginning because I don't think I would have had the capacity to go far that way. So basically, it was to write down everything I could remember that he did to me or he asked me to do to him. Then read it out, look at yourself in the mirror. So there's different stages. Every time I said, "Okay, I've done the writing," am I done? I said, "Oh no, 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 no." The next step is now you need to stand up, look at the mirror, and read what you've wrote. And I was like crumbling, and this was weeks and weeks of work. Now you've got to record it. Now you've got to hear it. And now we're going to talk about it. So she knew there was a various stages, but she never said all of it in the beginning because it would have been too much for me to take on. And it is the mindfulness. When you write something, when you hear it something, and when you record it, it does something to your subconscious, and it triggered or it unlocked some of the things that I had locked. So since that age of 12, 13, when I was abused, my parents were in that moment the year before they were married, millionaires, and they went from being bankrupt, getting divorced, and their son, Scott or Scotty, was just looking for attention. If I would have gone to my parents at that age and gone to my mum, Don Fran, the man that you're paying because I'm struggling with school, is abusing your son, she would say, stop looking for attention because that's all I was doing. I didn't understand why my parents were getting divorced. I was in boarding school in West Sussex up to that point, and I came here, and my parents were bankrupt, and the police kicked us out of our home. So could you imagine as a 12-year-old in 1992, in those eras where there's no internet, no mobiles, no, you know, there was no technology. So I just held and I thought, well, I suppose this is a normal thing. And I sort of learned to live with that. But it just changed because every time I walked into a shop and I saw a man with a beard or a smell or someone that reminded him, it would screw
Okay.
my days for days.
Wow. You know, I live in West Sussex.
Yeah. Do
It's
you live in
just,
West Sussex? Well, I
yeah,
went to
yeah,
a school called Dorset House School in Bury in Portsmouth. I went there for three from 1988 to 1991 in a
yeah.
boys' school. At the time, it was a boys' school.
Well, listen, thank you for being so open and honest. You know, it's really interesting, the whole field of psychoimmunology, how, you know, how our biography shapes our biology, you know, how what we've experienced. And I love the work of Gabor Mate around how trauma affects us. And I think this is an area that we don't talk about our trauma. I think there's still so much that is unknown and unsaid about how it manifests, how it affects us, how health. I mean, I remember, you know, being a personal trainer in the late 80s, and you know, people talked about stress and heart disease. You know, that kind of made sense. And then later on, you know, there was research that came out around anger and cancer. And you know, I know that more and more of this now is coming to the fore, and shame, which is obviously something that you must have carried for a long time. Again, I relate to that with my own shame that I had from the age of 9. That just got worse and worse and worse, carrying this shame. Um, what impact do you think that had on you in terms of your life experience? And do you think that might have resulted in the brain tumor?
I'm 100% that's caused a brain tumor because my life before that, I was in depression for 3 years. I went to psychology. I did, I'm open to, recognize when I've got a problem and I seek for help. But I was in various business. So my background has always been real estate and bars and restaurants. But I did for 5 years before diagnosed. I had a toy shop. And for some reason, or the world put it, I ended up being in business with one of the richest men in Spain, and I started popping up shops all around the country, in Portugal and different places. And it gave us an opportunity, but I was just filling my calendar to keep my mind occupied. If
Yeah,
that answers it. So
of course, of
I
course.
was not happy at all. I could have been very successful from the outside. Everyone thought, "Oh my God, look at this guy. He's got real
Yeah,
estate, he's got toy shops, he's got his two beautiful children with the best wood and sustainable toys." And I was raised up. I've got two sisters, so I was raised up, which is the opposite of what we're doing with our kids. I've got an older sister, Sarita, and a younger sister called Tanya, and it's in between us 2.5 years. And I was raised up that my sister would clean. I was raised up that my sister would help my mum and my nanny to cook, and I was the boy. It was like, didn't do much. I'm not defending myself or defending the age. This is a different era. I have a boy and a son. I have a boy and a girl, and we treat them the same. Just because you're a boy, it's not. So what I'm trying to say by that, I'm not trying to excuse myself, but I'm trying to identify that I was raised in a very masculine and have to wear a mask, and my mom or my dad would never
yeah,
say I love you, or like I couldn't drop a tear. I had to. So all my life I've been until I release my traumas. And I was able in February, mid-February, I remember having a real, I think it was the 14th or 13th of February when I had a shift that I had this most profound uh, sensation that I connected with my feminine side. And I remember it was filming and I had this beautiful, beautiful smile that I have not seen since I was before sexually abused. I looked at this image and this video hundreds of times, Pete, and I've recognized that the work was worth it. All the work that I've been working, I was still with Martha. I found that childhood that I was taken away from me at age 12, 13. And when I told my wife, she started to puzzle the pieces like, Now things make sense. Now when we're in a public what do you call it, a big macro hotel or on the beach, you're so obsessed being so close to the kids because you're
Yeah,
constantly,
you're trying to protect them.
yeah, I'm like, I'm obsessed. I'm
Yeah,
obsessed.
yeah,
I'm a,
it's interesting you talk about masking because obviously that's something that once again I can relate to, and many people I know that it's so easy to put on a mask to protect yourself. What I learned about that, which I thought was fascinating, was in trying to protect myself, I was in survival mode. And what I realize now is that that was damaging me in trying to protect myself. And now part of my goal in my own life is to protect my nervous system as best as I can, as challenging as that is. But it's what I'm committed, to doing, to stopping and suspending the out of date persona, the out of date performance, and letting this new me come to life. That has come to life through major stop moments, and obviously one of them being Hannah. What is different for you now, and what is it that you want to tell the world about what you've discovered, and what do you want to say to people about possibility and changing their lives?
I've been trying to figure out what is my purpose. And one of the things that I've found fascinating about the monks in general is that they first do a visualization of what their dharma, what their purpose can be in life. I know that I've got a terminal cancer, brain tumor. I could be here 4 months or 4 years. I don't really think about that. I really live the present. But one of the things is that I visualize when I do meditation. I meditate every day, and I have been doing it for months, and that's non-negotiable because it helps me my nervous system. It reduces my cortisol levels, and by reducing the cortisol levels, it reduces as well the inflammation, which means I can reduce my steroid-based drugs, which is obviously feeds from the muscles and the bones, so which is physically I'm deteriorating by the day. But where I'm working at is that what I want to share to the world is it would have been impossible for me to think before diagnosed that I would cry in front of a camera, or I would recognize and admit my false ego, and then I was a people pleaser. I've, that was months ago where I liberated. And once I've stopped resisting life and stopped resisting myself, and rather than thinking, I don't know if you believe or you do any activities of chakras, but animals have a very good sense of feeling. I don't sleep much. I get up in the morning at 4 or 5 in the morning and I go for long walks in the mountains. And for the last couple of months, not now, but the tubes like so Feb, March, I used to go to the mountain and this cat constantly and another cat would lay always in my throat. And I went to Martha and I said to her, this cat and another cat always lay, not nowhere else, but just obviously here. And we were doing the chakras, and obviously, my chakras of my throat was blocked.
So
And
you
it's
had a cat come and sit on you.
yeah, laid on my neck all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. And I said, "What's going on?" And she really believes on all this stuff. So she did some healing sound. She did some unlocking it, and basically some of the sound would literally block my breathing, and I couldn't breathe. But it's because up till when I recognized and I admitted that I was false ego and I was just wearing a mask. Up to that point, everything was just empty words, Pete. It was just no meaningful. Where now I don't prepare nothing, I don't do nothing. Everything comes. There's no right or wrong because everything I speak on a daily basis and a lot of habits and changes I've made in the last few months, it comes purely from my soul and my heart. So what I'm saying is pure truth and it's who I am, who I'm becoming. So we all have an ego, but what I don't do is I don't judge like I used to do before. I don't criticize. I change a lot of habits. And one of the biggest thing that I think is something simple, but I recommend it. And I've said it to many friends. Whenever you are with a stranger, whenever you are having a meal with your wife or with your friend or with your father, or it doesn't matter where you are, when a plane meeting someone, put your phone on airplane. That moment it is for that person or for the group of people you are. Be present in that moment. It really is. I've been doing this for 3 months, and every time I put my phone on, it doesn't matter if it's the King of Spain that needs me, he will have to wait until I have finished that moment, that precious moment, like I'm having with you or anybody else. And I've changed a lot of the mindfulness in the last 2 months. So what I want to share with the world is there's two things that I know, which is my purpose now. One is to try and make other men realize that stop being, stop resisting, stop wearing a mask. We don't have to have the answers. It's fine going to the cinema. It's fine
Mm.
crying. It's absolutely fine because, it doesn't make you weaker. It actually make you stronger, identifying and connecting with your soul and connecting with your emotions. Men in general, I've got a lot of mates. They are very masculine and struggling to even have conversations with me when I'm in tears in the middle of a restaurant. I don't care. I am such in a peace with myself that for the whole year, all I heard was how proud everyone was with everything I had done since diagnosed. Not once, and I promise for my kids, I not once I ever believed in my soul. And I was like saying to Rachel, why is everyone so happy and so proud of what I've achieved? And I don't even believe it because I needed to get that false ego and get the trauma out of my system. The moment I release the sexual abuse that I had from Don Fran, and I forgive that boy and I forgive him for what he did, which was completely, wrong because he was an adult and he was sick, and what he did was completely wrong. But I can't change that. But once that shifted and I did the work and I was able to talk without breaking, then oh my friend, peace came slowly, and I have an inner peace every day. I have bad days, and before I would resist it. Now I have a bad day. It's fine. It's absolutely fine.
I can I can really feel that in you, that the inner peace and contentment that you have found. I know that's what I was looking for, but I was looking in the wrong place. You know, I was just looking out there for it. And I've tried to outrun myself for most of my life. But the grief was so intense. And with the help of my coach, Dr. Ray Sylvester, I couldn't outrun, I couldn't outrun that. And it forced me to look at myself, the hole in me. And like you've become more, you looked at the whole and you've become more whole, as in HOLE. We have a funny way of spelling words here in the UK, but whole as in WHOLE. There's a hole here, and you obviously had a big hole in you. I had a big hole in me, but we've learned to beautifully go on that journey. And now we can share a better version of ourselves, maybe our truer self, our real self to the world. And it's crazy what wakes us up. And obviously what woke you up is, a glioblastoma. But it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I really appreciate how you're choosing to, what the journey that you've been on is very inspiring to me. And also the work that you want to do with men.
That's
Because,
one of the first one. The second one, sorry to interrupt.
yeah, no, please.
The second one is actually, but so we had a toy shop for 5 years, and every Christmas we would send a big amount of toys to the Materno in Malaga, to the kids' hospital. And
Yeah.
Sarah, who was the woman who was responsible to receive the toys, because you couldn't just send any toys; they had to be anti-infection, or it couldn't be soft toys from Jellycat, or I shouldn't, or any other brand, but it had to be completely sealed. So. But every toy we sent, it was always eco, it was always sustainable. We never sent anything that was not appropriate or that we wouldn't give our children. So we did that. So where I'm now, which I'm trying to find associations, because since COVID has changed, is the difference is that I now want to take those toys and visit those children's hospital. One, because I'm a father, so I understand. My children have seen me having multiple seizures, losing consciousness, and my son said to her mother on the fourth seizure in Thailand, the words were, when I lost completely consciousness, I think daddy is dying and going to heaven, mommy. And he was broken in tears. Now, there's no parent should ever hear that. And this was this March this year. So I've been hospitalized multiple times in Thailand with no insurance, public hospital, So I had to return back to Spain. And I was hoping it was going to be necrosis, which is caused by the radiation. But unfortunately, when I returned back, they did all the tests, all the experts met up, and after 7 weeks of deliberation, it's a regrowth of the tumor that I was diagnosed 3 months ago, but unfortunately can't be operated. So this time it can't be touched. So this is why it's in a worse place. I am in a worse place than I was last year because the tumor's regrowth is in exactly the same spot, and no surgeon will operate when it's in the same spot, and you can't have radiation. But even with that, I've not changed my outlook in life. I want to spend as much time as I can helping other children, visiting children, reading them a story. I'm in both places. I've always had that love, and I have so much love to give. I know it sounds very,
No, not there's only love to give. There's only love to give. There's nothing else to give. So
yeah.
you can
So
never have, so yeah, there's never too much. That's all
well,
there is.
I've learned that in the last few months because I've received so much love from people that I wasn't expecting. Strangers in my village, people will knock on the door with a bag of vegetables. Everyone knows that I ate all the vegetables and fruit with no chemicals and only with manure and anything else. So everyone in my village is a small town. The advantage of a small town, it becomes a small community and everyone knows everyone. So everyone knows Scott that lives in the old quarter of the village, lives a very, very healthy life. And I have been since diagnosed in every way, mindfulness, meditation, food, every day, things that people don't see. Like logistically, the truth is, I'm living in a borrowed house for the last 3 months. My children and my wife are living in a sofa bed in their parents' house, and my home is rented out. This is even how complicated it is. So when we decided in the 12th of February this year, my surgeon called me and said after the scan, said, "You're in remission. You're good. So do what you want to do. And every 3 months, wherever you are around the world, you've got to have, because you've got glioblastoma, you have to have a checkup." I said, "Okay." So we took our kids out of school legally. So, we had to take them, remove them off the system. And me and Rachel decided, let's do it. We rented a pickup, we arrived to Thailand, and we started driving Southeast Asia for 6 months. So we rented our home to fund the travel. And day four, I mean, come on, talk about bad luck. Day four, once we reached Thailand, I had my first seizure. And it resonated because I was sleeping. I woke up by massive spasms of seizures. After 40 seconds, I lost consciousness and I peed in my bed. And after the peed in my bed, I carry on going for quite a couple of minutes of compulsions. And when I woke up about an hour later, the ambulance came and took me to hospital. That was in Koh Chang, in an island of Thailand. And since then, had many, many more, and they couldn't figure out what it was. So at the moment, I'm in anti-seizure meds, which they figured out they can control it. But my holistic approach is also probably more deeper than the medical. Don't get me wrong, I trust and believe in the medical system, but I also know my body better than anybody does. So you can't treat me like a number, or you can't, no one knows the sacrifices I go every day since I was diagnosed. And I don't need to prove to anyone, I don't need the validation from anyone since I liberated and stopped resisting to myself, what you said. The moment I took the mask and I was just being able to be who I really am, whether you like me or not, I can't please everyone, and we can't please everyone in the world, but being honest, it's very, very powerful. I'm receiving so many messages and being grateful for that. It made me more loving. That's where I was trying to come to. I've got a lot of love because I think I've been for 33 years resisting all this trauma. Think about it. I've been for 33 years with this dark, deep secret that this man had abused me and no one knew about it. And once you get it out and you've done the work, gosh, it
Yeah.
was beating a cancer, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean it's like this like you said, liberation and a freedom. And I would say to anyone that's the people that are listening to this, if this triggers you in some way, shape, or form, then please don't hesitate in, reaching out to either of us, because I know that obviously you're committed to helping and supporting people, because to face yourself and to face what's happened to you is challenging. There's no question about that. But there are people and there are many ways and methods to, I suppose, come to terms and deal with, to let go. Both my brother and my brother's wife, they're both psychotherapists. I've had quite a lot of therapy in my life. I have amazing people that I can turn to, but admitting that there's something going on, first of all, is challenging enough. In some respects, Scott, I'm sorry that what woke you up, but it woke you up, and you're now liberating. I imagine so many people are inspired by your example, and that's one of the reasons I obviously want to share your story with other people, so perhaps people don't have to wait for a major stop moment, because we're all stopping every day, but most of us are stopping just to react to a world that says you can't stop, you just got to keep going, and then obviously life can force you to stop, like a diagnosis or something, a bereavement or something, you lose your job or something, or you can intentionally stop. And I think what's so amazing about you is you're intentionally stopping every day, stopping to be present, stopping to just be more mindful. And we all have that. I'm privileged enough that I get to do that. I get to do it. And it's like, you remind me of the practice of that. So when we finish talking today, I haven't meditated today. I've done a few other things today for my purging. I'm a big fan at the moment. I talk about purging a lot, through a sauna, through exercise, through meditating, letting go of what doesn't need me, what doesn't serve me, what isn't mine, which maybe I picked up along the way, and letting it go, but doing it intentionally. I'd like to ask you, as we start to maybe bring this to an end, I'd love to know, what would you like the legacy of this podcast to be? Because obviously I will share it with as many people as I possibly can. What would you like people to take away from this?
Just to not be afraid. The fear is the first thing, and fear actually isn't too bad. Fear is actually an automated thing that your body creates. But if you start analyzing objectively and recognizing whatever problems you have, the first thing is what you said, recognizing that you have a problem. No one's going to help unless you admit that you have something and you want to seek for help. I've done therapy, hypnotherapy, wisdom contemplation, healing sound system. I've done a lot of things in the last few months. Some of it has done me good. Some of it I've tried it and it's not for me. Reading cards, tarot. I've done all of those things. I'm a very curious person. I never always has been. I now use all my energy that I don't work. I can't drive. Physically, my mobility and my speech is deteriorating because of the tumor is clearly growing.
Yeah.
I went to Munich 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, to do this dendritic T cells, which they injected in. Hopefully, that's the only faith and hope that I have, that it might reduce part of my tumor. But what I want to give, and not just for the men, but for anyone or members or families or friends, is if I would have accepted the first or even the second time round that the surgeon said, we can't operate you, put your hand out and take the palliative care, they gave me maximum 6 months to live based on the 4 centimeter. I have been in hospital that people have accepted that, not fought hard enough, and I've seen them dying across the room. I'm not saying you're going to have cancer. I'm just saying there's so many different diseases, there's so many different ways. Like literally I shared an 18-page of what I do. The first time I've shared 18 pages so people can read it and they can take whatever they want. Maybe one thing will help them in their journey of their life, whatever it is. But I've shared that completely for free so people can utilize it or can go and get it whenever they want. But for me, it's the false ego is one of the biggest enemy that we all have. It really is. How many times, you go, like you were saying at the very beginning, you said that we're in a, like, what do you call it? Autopilot,
Yeah,
autopilot in life.
yeah,
I was like that. And now I am very present in life. And maybe I'm a privilege because I've got a terminal cancer and I genuinely very aware and very conscious of the day to day is what I really have. And I'm going to do everything I can to do the best I can to serve others and to spend the time with my loved ones. But I know that if it reaches two, three, four, five, that isn't really the point. The point is that this, oh, me, I did my first ever public speech. I've never ever done that. And I would say I visualized it for 3 weeks, me standing or sitting down with loads of strangers. I put posters around my village and I thought I would be nervous because that's the kind of person I would be. I went to the speech on a Saturday morning, 11 in the morning, walked in, did an hour and a half, didn't crumble, didn't shake. My wife, my father, a few friends, I was like, it's because it came from here.
yeah.
And when you really speak with your heart and your soul, genuinely, what could go
Yeah,
wrong?
you get out of your own way. I wrote a book on about fear many years ago, and we used to say false evidence appearing real. But what you've just given me is false ego appearing real. The false ego, you know. I really want to thank you with that 18-page document that you've put together. How do people get hold of that?
It's on my post. All they've got to do is just comment journey and I'll send it to them.
On Instagram, yeah?
See on Instagram. I'm
Yeah,
gonna,
yeah. I'll put
yeah,
a link of that when I put this out, so
because
people
there I
can get
talk
hold of it.
about supplementation, nutrition, meditation, mindfulness. It talks about, I even going to explain because what I don't like is what I've had a few people that just, I created WhatsApp group and they say, oh, I'm going to start taking this. I said, no, 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 no. I'm sharing, but you do your own research. I don't know what kind of lifestyle you have. I don't know if you've got
Yeah,
diabetes, just I'm just sharing what I'm doing and I explain some of the supplementation, what it does. Is what you said, people are so busy, they just listen to the doctors and then they just, but there's, you know, if you mix the holistic life with the medical, I think you've got way more chances.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Well,
the mindfulness is everything. So
yeah.
that's why I shared it last night because there I explain my true vivid experience. Like I'm not make everything that I is on that is what I do, and since then I even do much more, which is the mindfulness and helping particularly men. And I help men here in the village, like genuinely, physically. I meet up with men um, and open up.
Well, I can't thank you enough for reaching out to me, and I'm sorry because last week I was burnt out. I'm definitely purging some stuff myself, and I just wasn't in a good space. But I'm in a much better space. I've taken so much away from what you said. I would encourage everyone who listens to this to go and follow Scott, not literally, like go to Spain and follow him, but go to his Instagram, check him out, share this story with the world. It took Hannah to have a seizure in 2011 to change her diet. She used to smoke, she used to drink. Obviously, that completely went. She
Mm,
became ketogenic. She got rid of all of the poor cleaning products in the house full of chemicals. She just went all in. She found herself. Uh, she's not here anymore in some respects, but in some respects she will always be here. From the chakra point of view, the part of you that isn't here physically is always here. The physical part is gone, and you're still very much here. And you look so well, and you look so healthy, Scott. I'm truly grateful to you, and maybe we can have another conversation. But I think this will be a good one to put that out into the world and encourage people to. We should have done a Spanish version, but obviously my Spanish is pathetic.
but we can try. Can I say that genuinely, I reached out to about over 50. I sent over 50 in the last month. I've sent over 50 emails, God knows how many messages on Instagram, and only two have got back. Yourself and another guy called Axel from Germany, which he's also got podcasts. I'm not being negative. I'm just trying to.
No, of course. So I'm gonna share this, and I'm sure other people will then want you because that's just how it works. But the fact that you don't care, you're just like, well, because it only takes one or two people, one conversation, two conversations, everything changes. There's also an organization here in the UK called Yes to Life, and I'm going to let them know about you as well because they it's all about integrative medicine and dealing with specifically cancer. Your story is one of those stories. It has to be told. The story has to be. You're telling the story, and I can't begin to tell you how much I am inspired by your example, and I am humbled by you. So, yeah, is there any other thing you'd like to say before we bring this podcast to a close?
No, I just really, really have had really excited days before because I know how much, I really do know how much suffering my wife has been seeing her husband not shutting down, but deteriorating and working really hard and being in the last 6, 7 weeks, I'm in such a pain. But again, rather than complaining about it, I know she's suffering a lot because she's seen that she's I can't find the word in English. She can't do nothing about it. When
Yeah.
you can't help and it's like, oh, I can't do nothing about
Well,
it.
well, please pass on my details to her because I would be delighted to speak to her anytime. So that's the
I
first thing.
have, I have,
And
I have. And I
good.
said,
Yeah, and the
because
same thing
you
for you.
guys, you guys are going to be able to have conversations deeper than like the same way that no one can put the shoes like Hannah or like me, but I can't put myself in your shoes. I can get very close because I see the pain and the tears and everything that Rach has gone through, living in a hospital, sleeping on a blue sofa, on an armchair for 2 months, while my kids are living in my house with the grandparents. It just breaks everything apart. But you have to be so focused and disciplined and consistent if you want to make this happen. And obviously, with my two young children, Massimo and Isabella, they inspire me to be there. You know, it petrifies me the thought that I will not be here when Massimo meets his first girlfriend or boyfriend, or if Isabella decides to be the best dancer, single artist on. That's the thing. Those are probably fear, but I've understood that that's not actually fear. I'm privileged that I have a deep love for my children, and I'm actually seeing it from that perspective. So before I would say, God, I'm in fear that I'm going to miss out. But no, the love I have for my children is so deep that I'm blessed to have that. So I channel it in a different way that I would have done before because I'm very intuitive and very guided with myself. And that's the message I want to give to the people. Just explore yourself. And do you know one of the biggest thing I want to finish on here? And this is a fact, and this is why I did Bali. Day 3 in Bali, when you are alone, like truly alone, with nobody around you, Pete, no one watching you and no one to prove, that's when you realize, who am I?
Yeah.
I'm on my own in the forest. There's nobody watching. There's no cameras. I don't need to pretend. Who is Scott Edwards Jimena? And that's why I went there. And I spent a lot of time in the middle of the jungle that you can only access there by motorbike. And I truly found it. And this is what I encourage people to do. You don't have to go to Bali. Just go glamping. Go
Yeah.
just
Go into the
forget.
woods.
Go
Go
to
to
the
the
woods.
beach.
Remove yourself from technology. You need to be
Yeah.
removed from technology for a period of days. You have to. And you've just got to let yourself out. And I promise you, the first 2 days is so uncomfortable because your thoughts are thinking, what am I doing here? Why did I come here? And then all of a sudden, it just changes it. At least for me anyway. This is my experience. And this
I
is
think
what
your overriding message is to go and explore yourself. I'm so grateful to you. I know I have a new best friend. I look forward to talking to you again. But for now, Scott, just from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you. I love you very much.
yeah.
Let's do this again.
Thank you so much, Pete. Thank you.